Welcome to the Author Blurb podcast. I'm your host, Eric Maynard. Today, I'm speaking with Jim Flynn. He was an interesting conversation. I guess I say that about everyone, but in all truth, they really are, and I enjoy talking with them. With that being said, we discuss his financial thrillers, the fact that he throws his type of dark sense of humor into these books, that he has been noted as being a very entertaining and funny person in the stories. So join us, listen, and most of all, go look up his book. Look up his profile. You can find it on authorblurb.com. Now, there you'll find his profile with all the links. You'll find past and previous guests as well. You can find where all the shows have been listed to air or even look at the videos. You can also, at authorblurb.com, listen to the shows themselves. So there's a lot there. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the show. Other than that, I'll talk to you after the show. Thank you. So I'm here with Jim Flynn today, and we're here to discuss the several books he has. The one that he started off with, and we discussed it. It was the first one he wrote. I got completely wrapped up in reading all of it and found funny. But instead of me going through and discussing the books, everything I enjoyed, Jim, can you tell people a bit about yourself, a bit about your books, and then we can discuss things a little further?
Yes, I was in the financial business for 35 years. I had thought about becoming a sports writer when I was in school, but wanted to make a living and eat and those sorts of things. So
Right.
I put off the writing until I retired. But while I was in the financial business, I was a contestant on Jeopardy.
Okay.
And I lost. That's to answer everybody's first question. I lost. I got the last question wrong. It feels really terrible to lose. But the good part of the experience was I wrote an article about what is it like to be a Jeopardy contestant. So I was able to sort of live out my writing fantasy. And I live in Connecticut. It was published as the cover story in the Hartford Courant, which is the big newspaper in Connecticut.
Okay.
Their Sunday magazine is a cover story. Newspapers were a bigger deal now, but
Right.
a bigger deal then, rather. But and it was great. I got paid to do it. I got fan mail. I had people who I didn't know call me up, say, "You should be a writer. You're really funny." And I couldn't afford. I had 3 kids and wife. I couldn't afford to just. I had a good job and a good paying job. I couldn't just trash it all. So I kept working for a long time. I mean, I was on Jeopardy like 30 years ago, and I retired 5 years ago. So
Okay.
it was a long time until I retired. I had as writers call it, an inciting incident. My inciting incident was I needed to have brain surgery.
Oof.
And I won't bore you with all the details, but when I was done, I was different. And I can fake being what I was before, but brain surgery affects. And I was really lucky. It was definitely not minor surgery, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of people have. And I recovered very well, but it affected my ability, believe it or not, to read. I have a hard time reading. I have a hard time taking on visual symbols and translating them in my brain. So I used to be a really fast reader, voracious reader, and any kind of symbols is kind of slow, and it makes me labor. And so I had to stop. I couldn't do my job anymore. I had to stop.
Right.
And fortunately, I'm old and I could afford to retire. So I retired. And okay, you want to be a writer? Let's see what you got. You have Microsoft Word, start writing. So I thought, well, my Jeopardy article was successful.
Mm-hmm.
I'll write about some other things I did that would be interesting to people. And I thought about it, and I was just a regular guy. Other than being on Jeopardy, I was just a regular guy. So what I decided to do is make up a character. a fictional character, Jimmy Sizemore, who is the star of Be Sincere Even When You Don't Mean It. And he does a lot of, for older people, they probably read Walter Mitty in school. Unlike Walter, Jimmy actually does all the things. He doesn't just fantasize. He really plays in the Super Bowl. He really plays in the Masters tournament. He's really an astronaut. I thought they're kind of bucket list. He plays in the Masters tournament. He does all these things. And the book was funny. I didn't know anything at all about book selling or publishing. I didn't even know you could publish a physical book on Amazon. I thought it had to be a Kindle.
Okay.
And after 3 days, when I had no sales, I did a little more research and learned, hey, you can publish a book and you don't have to pay for it. As you know, Amazon has print on demand. So they don't have a warehouse full of 10,000 books. They just, if 10 people buy your book that day, they print them. It's fantastic technology. They print the books, they mail them out. There's no inventory of the books. So Amazon isn't taking any risk. And after it went into print, it became pretty successful for a quirky little book written by somebody nobody ever heard of. And fortunately for me, through serendipity, some people I consider real writers, people who make their living writing, read the book. Through not people I know, not people who know each other. They just read the book and wrote me to encourage me.
Oh,
and
nice.
A couple of them become people I consider friends and mentors to me. But they all said the same thing, which is, you're really good at being funny. A lot of good writers aren't funny. They're terrific writers, but they're not good at humor. You're good at humor. Keep the humor in.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to broaden your audience, write novels, write stories and learn the hero's journey and the structure of a novel and all that kind of thing. So I wrote my first, what I considered novel, which is called Losing Lola, and featuring a character named J.R. Johnson, who's in the financial business. And I used my knowledge of the financial business. The first book, Lola is this big movie star, the world's biggest movie star, and she gets swindled by a guy running a hedge fund, who it's really a Ponzi scheme, and it's kind of like Bernie Madoff. When JR is a money manager who loses Lola's account to this phony, and Lola was also JR's lover. It's a complicated situation.
All right.
So that story plays out as he goes after this hedge fund Ponzi scheme crook. When that book ends, we go on to another financial situation, and it's called the Bitcoin Gambit. And that book is about Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency world. And some very interesting things happen there. In all the books, there's humor, there's violence, there's a little, it's not really graphic sex, but they joke about sex and that sort of thing. There's locker room language, as we're not going to use locker room language on the podcast, but anybody who is offended by that sort of thing shouldn't read the books. But they are funny. They carry the humor through. And if you read the reviews to any of the books, they all say the same thing. This book made me, not they all, but many of them say the same thing. This book made me laugh out loud. And the most recent book in that series is called Better Than Even.
All right.
Subtitle is Trillion is the New Billion. And that explores hacking and cyber theft and those sorts of things. JR keeps getting pulled into these schemes and convoluted experiences and changes a little bit as a character as it goes along. As I'm sure you know, the classic structure of a novel is the hero's journey. Kind of the Luke Skywalker. Here's this innocent person. He goes through all these things. He emerges at the end as a changed person. What I realized when I began writing my stories is I'm not writing a novel. I'm writing long form TV show.
Right.
Because since I don't really read much anymore, I either listen to books or I watch a lot of long form TV shows. Dexter, The Americans, Breaking Bad, Longmire, Person of Interest. All those have great writing in them. And I try to I realize what I'm doing is I'm writing a long form TV show.
All right.
That's what my books are. All three of them feature the same main character, and he goes on to one adventure after another. He does change a little bit as a person, but if you watch, let's take The Americans, for example. They change as people as you go along, but it isn't just one book. The change takes longer in a long form TV show than it does in, say, a standalone novel.
Right.
So, or if you take Breaking Bad, Walter White, he changed a lot as the thing went on. And sometimes in that form, people backslide and then they have to change back again. And that happens to JR as we go through the story. So I think of each book as really one season in a long form TV show. So each book is a season. I've written 3 in this genre, and I'm working on the 4th right now.
Okay. So now let me ask you this. The main character is JR.
Yep.
So how does JR is it his personality? Is there something that keeps dragging him into these situations? Or what is it, just dumb bad luck? What is it that keeps getting him into this?
Well, both, but it isn't all bad luck. Some of it's good luck.
Okay.
And some of it he seeks out. And some of it are people who pretend to be his benefactors are really using him. So there's a lot of plot twists in all these things. And people have given me praise for having things happen that you didn't see coming. Okay. And that's one of the things I really, that's one of the exciting things about writing is that you're the movie producer, the director, the writer, the actor, you're everything. So you get to make the story. And as you're in the middle of writing one of these stories, it actually becomes pretty intense because the people become real to you. Right. And you kind of live in this world. Let's see what's going to happen, or how's she going to shoot this guy? That sort of thing. It's fun, yet it does sort of grab you. It does sort of take over your life. And in the middle of writing the Bitcoin Gambit, I was putting artificial time restrictions on myself. I said I have to get this done by X date. I don't even remember when that was, and there was really no reason for that. I'm a retired guy, and I'm just going to publish a book, and that caused
go golfing, all that good stuff.
Yeah, right. Take care of my horses. Have a nice life.
There you go.
But what happened was, because of my brain stuff, I have to avoid extreme stress. Stress causes problems for me, neurological problems that I won't go into. But so in the middle of the Bitcoin Gambit, I was putting so much pressure on. It was all self-imposed. I was putting so much pressure on myself that I had to just stop. I had to just walk away from that for a month. And during that month, I wrote my golf book.
I was going to say that's one that I wanted to look into.
Hit your second shot first. It's completely different than the novel. It's just, as a friend of mine said, this book is like playing 18 holes with you. I said, yeah, but not everybody has the benefit of playing 18 holes. So I'm going to share my vast knowledge of wise guy golf stuff. Some people love the book. I try to be, when I put it on Amazon or I advertise on Facebook, I'm as honest as I can be, saying, this isn't going to teach you. This isn't a golf instruction book. This is funny.
Right.
And although if you do listen to its broad outlines, it's basically take it easy and don't try too hard, because when you do, that's when you hit really bad shots. Hit your second shot first. Relax, swing easy. That's the theme of the book. It's funny because when you publish a book, any book, whether it's a golf book or Be Sincere or the J.R. Johnson series, you open yourself up to criticism. And all of it, not everybody is polite.
No.
So I mean, you get some people calling you names and stuff. And in the golf book, people who bought it, there were a couple people who bought it who didn't understand that it was just humorous.
Okay.
And, I didn't learn anything from this, and how dare you? And I wasted my money and that kind of stuff. You have to let that roll off your back.
Right.
If you're a sensitive person and you want to write a book, I would say use a pen name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also don't take it personally. Some people maybe they're having a bad day. Who knows? Just fortunately, most of the reviews of my books are good.
Right, and I agree with that from what I saw.
And frankly, the people who just don't like your book, they don't bother reviewing it. So the people who really like it, review it, and the people who hate it, review it. But fortunately, most of the people who really like it are the ones who review the books. So that's why most people have favorable reviews. It isn't all your uncle doing it. It's just people who like the book, and because it's a pain in the neck. I listen to a lot of books on Audible, and I make myself write a review of the books that I like because I know they're important to people. But it's not that easy. It's easier just not to write anything.
Oh, yeah. I do the same thing. And because I know how important the reviews are and how much, and like for me, when I see a new review on one of my books or something, good or bad, I get excited. I want to read it. One, it lets me know what people think of it. Two, it also allows me to say, hey, look, I'm doing an okay job or doing a good job or whatever. So, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, it kind of confirms your existence. At least somebody's paying attention.
Right.
I also had the experience on, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I have four books out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 books out. I have 4 of them are audiobooks.
Okay.
Be Sincere is a really funny audiobook.
I was going to say that's the one before we started talking. I said I got wrapped up in just looking into, so I didn't really get a chance to look at the other books because I was focused on that one so much. Yeah,
Be Sincere is really funny, and the narrator. As a public service, I do not narrate my own books. It's funny because I don't know if you had this experience. On Audible has a service called ACX, which records and does all the technical stuff. And the first thing they encourage you to do is to try to narrate it yourself. Yeah. And you make more money if you narrate it yourself because you're not paying a narrator or you're not splitting royalties. And I tried to do it. I was terrible. I said, I wouldn't even listen to this book. Right. So I went out and I found a narrator, a professional narrator. He's great. He's done all my books. Okay. It was funny because after I did Be Sincere, which is one kind of book, the next book, there's basically no characters in Be Sincere. There's a little dialogue. It's mostly this one guy telling his story. Okay. The next book is a novel, and there's 20 characters in it. And I don't know how this happened, but a lot of the strong characters in the books are women. Okay. So you want to see if you're an actor? Try to read a novel where there's a conversation between 2 women. Oh, geez. Yeah. And so you don't want to be speaking in a falsetto, but you have to distinguish the voice a little bit. There's Russian characters in the book. There's conversations between 2 Russians. So you have to narrate a novel, you have to be an actor. Anyhow, this guy came through and he was great. In fact, Lola won an award for best thriller of 2019 in audiobooks among independent authors. So not among Stephen King and Nelson DeMille, but among independent authors. That's nice that it won the award. I will say one thing about that is independent authors,
there's a ton of fantastic independent self-published authors out there. So even to say just in that category is still a heck of an achievement to have.
Yeah, well, it was a really nice day when they, out of the clear blue sky, told me I won this award. So,
Well, congratulations to that.
And now I get to put award-winning author on my website. So
there you go. Always a nice thing to have.
Yep.
So let me ask this then. So you say a lot of this has humor throughout everything. You seem to be very happy-go. Like when I write, for an example, a lot of my humor is very sarcastic, just because that's the type of person. Like I'll joke around with people, but when I'm around my closest and dearest friends, sarcasm seems to come out of me just naturally. So what kind of humor do you use in your books? Is it more
we should get along because he's kind of dry and sarcastic, but it's also, and now my friend and mentor, who's really a professional writer, who's helping me do some things to get publishers and so on, and things I can't talk about, but because I got some stuff going on. But she has read all my books and said, all of your books, whether it's some guy being an astronaut or JR and his financial things or the golf book, they all have dark humor in them. and so when you're out pitching yourself, you should compare yourself to Harlan Coben or to Nelson DeMille or who wrote Get Shorty? What the name escapes me.
Oh, I'm horrible about things like that.
I'll think of it 5 minutes from now. But
of course.
For example, Nelson DeMille, when he published his first John Corey book, the publisher sent it back, said, this is a thriller with humor. Nobody likes that. Take the humor out. And he smartly ignored that device and he sold 10 million copies or something. So, JR's kind of a wise guy. Some surprising things happen that are funny. JR narrates. I don't want to get too much into the
narration of the storytelling.
He's the narrator of
perspective.
He's the narrator of the scenes that he's in.
Okay.
But it also takes place in Russia and Indonesia, and he can't be in all those places.
No.
Washington, D.C. and New York. So when he's not in a scene, it's third party. So nobody's narrating. It's just a third party. And when he's in a scene, he narrates it. And that's when it's funny because it's seeing the world through his eyes.
All right. So now the female characters you said there, how's everything kind of tied together? Is it like just with financial industry? I know that it's a global thing. Is it?
Yeah.
He's set in. I'm not sure where he's set out of.
Well, he started working in New York on Wall Street. Left. He's a longtime Austin, Texas resident, although he grew up in Maryland. He's the black sheep of a family. He's the only member of his family in 300 years who didn't go to medical school.
Okay.
They're just groomed to go to medical school. He didn't want to do that. He went and played golf at the University of Texas. And so he's been ostracized by the family. So he's out of Austin. It allows some Texas humor. I know Texas a little bit, although I live in Connecticut. It allows him to have a setting that's away from, he can observe, if you think about it, you can observe things better when you're not tied up in them. That's why he's not in New York. He's away from things. He's away from Washington, D.C., although he gets involved in some political stuff. He's away from Wall Street, even though he gets involved with a lot of financial stuff. But it allows him to observe from far away. That's why I picked Austin, Texas. Okay,
so he's also has that outsider perspective and being able to adapt. So does all this kind of correlate around the Austin, Texas area, but with scenes that do have things taking place in different locations, or how's that work?
Yeah, I'd say about less than half of it is in Texas.
All right.
Some of it's in New York, some of it's in Washington, some of it's in Moscow, um, Germany, Indonesia. It's a global thing, and and women are both bad and good. The real bad super villain of the book is named Sierra Books. It's named Sierra Quinn. She's really bad. They say when in doubt, make the villain badder, and she's bad, and people love to hate her. So, so she's the one. But also, there's a couple really strong positive women in the books as well. And JR has feelings about some of these women, and I can't tell you anymore without ruining the plot. So,
right. Well, I understand that. I mean, anytime there's a guy and girl and there's feelings involved, there's tend to be plenty of conflict and plenty of headaches for both sides. So I can see that being an interesting plot line as well.
Sure, that's what causes the tension.
Oh yeah.
You have to have conflict, as you know. If no conflict, no story. Right. So there has to be big conflict. There has to be big consequences, life or death, billions of dollars, that sort of stuff. And all these people are involved in those.
All right. So what is it, I guess, what is it that keeps you going on your writing, and what is it about the enjoyment of writing that you have about it?
Well, I decided I want to be successful. Who doesn't? You don't sit around and write a book and say, "Oh, I hope nobody reads this." You want to be successful. You hope you get lucky, right?
Right.
So when I wrote the first one, I said, "I'm going to write a series. This is going to be a series because people binge read."
Right.
When people read the first one, especially Kindles, they'll read 3 books in a row, 4 books in a row. So I said, I can make this a series and still not ever run out of material, because it's kind of like Law and Order. There's enough stuff going on in the financial world and the technical world, because he gets involved with some techie stuff with cybercrime and genetic cloning and all those sorts of things. Well, there's a story every day.
Oh yeah.
You never run out of material on that stuff.
I was going to say, between tech and financial and everything else going on in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of it's so crazy you don't have to exaggerate much, or at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that. Yeah. So do you set these books in a certain time period, or is it just generalized?
They're generalized, but now.
Now,
so
okay.
It's not. It doesn't say September 3rd, 2022, but from the things that are happening, Bitcoin's happening, deep fake videos are happening. So the reader knows it's now.
Right. It's current. It's a current modern book.
Right.
So no, I didn't know if it meant in the sense of down the road these are things, or current, or how. I've spoken with several authors here and there that they try to put it ahead of time. Yeah. So that it's basically, this is what I'm projecting. So I didn't know if you were trying to do.
There's a little bit of projecting, but as they say, you don't want to get too far over your skis.
Right.
So you don't have to. This isn't like a science fiction thing where I'm predicting here's what life's going to be like in 10 years. Right. There's just a little things that happen that haven't happened yet, but with a little inspiration, they could happen. So
I understand.
And some very interesting, some very interesting explanations come up. And again, they're plot twists. I can't tell you what they are, but there's a couple really surprising things in each book.
I understand. So what about this? How much of you is actually in the story, in the sense of, is there a character that you feel is kind of has your personality or your outlook, or something that you feel him and you kind of connect to each other in a way?
Yeah, JR has my voice.
Okay.
He's not me. I don't aspire to be him.
Right.
But when he tells something that happens, that's my voice.
Okay.
and you know that's easier to do.
Right.
And I'm a funny guy, so it's easier to be funny when I'm writing in my own voice. And the people who know me say, "Oh yeah, that's you." You know, my wife says, "That's you talking." She doesn't get jealous when he has a girlfriend or anything because I tell
Well,
her
that's always a good thing.
it's just a story on, you know.
Right. Oh, trust
Yep.
me, I'm
Yep.
married, and I can tell you have to be kind of, no, honey, this is not a fantasy. No, this is not this. This is
This
just
is just for the other guys reading the book. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
So, with that being said, I don't want to take up a horrible amount of your time. So, you have another book coming out, you said that you're working on now. Do you know
Yeah.
when that's coming out, or do you have
No,
an
I'm
expectation?
still I'd say I'm 25%, 30% done with that. Name of it is Operation Baker Baker. You'll
Okay.
understand what that means when you finish better than even.
Okay.
But each book starts the day after the previous one stopped. So
Okay.
right after another. So Operation Baker Baker starts right after um, Better Than Even stops.
Okay. So it's a continuous ride through from start to finish.
Yes, much like, you know, if you watch Breaking Bad, when the episode starts, it's pretty much what just happened.
Right. So where do you think, other than on authorblurb.com, where I have a profile of you set up with all the links that you've given me, and I'm going to provide those links in the show notes as well, where's the best place if people want to reach out to you to talk with you? Where would you like them to go?
The best place is my website, jimflynn6.com. And they just click on that. They can see pictures of all the books. They see links to all the books. They click one more click and they can buy the book. It also lists separately the audiobooks. So if they're audiobook listener, instead they can click on that separately. But it's a very nice, clean site. It's easy to operate, and you can find, if you want to dig in, you can find out more about me, or you can just buy the books.
Well, sounds good. And I'm sure people's going to enjoy going and finding out more about it. Like I said, just looking at the one book, I was already attached to getting wrapped up in that one. So I can't wait to actually get time on my hands to be able to read again, because I'm going to put that on my reading list. But with that being said, I appreciate you being here. I'm going to have you hold on for me for just a few moments so I can end the conversation for us with everybody else. And then you and I will talk a little bit afterwards.
Well, thanks, Eric. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you again. Hold on one moment. All right. So you got to listen to our show. It was an interesting conversation with Jim, and I really did, like I said, and I always say, I really did enjoy it because, well, we just get some amazing authors on this show to discuss. So if you're more interested, remember, Jim's information is down in the show notes. We also have his information at authorblurb.com, where you can find all the information you're looking for, locations of where we're hosting and putting our shows for you to listen to. You can listen to them on the website as well if you like. You can find where the videos can be or viewed, as well as any other information such as the author's profiles that are on the website. As well, we have authors that write their own articles, write things for you to enjoy and get to know them more as well. They're on the website. I encourage you, authorblurb.com. You can find all the information about the show, about our guest, about everything that I can do. And if you have any questions it doesn't address, you can email me. Let me know, review, comment. Anything you tell me or say makes me know what I'm doing better or worse and what I need to improve on. So I appreciate your time as always. I look forward to having you join me on the next episode. And thank you, as always, for being part of the show.